from about the second song in, people were woofing in the
No
crowd,
way.
just woof, like through the whole fucking thing. It was crazy because like I opened the original chorus, which I'd completely forgotten about. I was like, holy fuck, like it's so different. And I actually really, really dig it. I was like, damn, like that's should I have actually done that? That's really cool.
Wow.
Maybe that can guide you towards being in a position where you don't have to sign to a label. Every young artist should know.
Dinosaur Pile-Up have been making waves in the music industry for nearly 2 decades now with their selection of kick-ass rock songs. Now, they hit a bit of a speed bump a few years ago when the vocalist Matt Bigland went through like a life-threatening illness. But thankfully, they were able to find their way through that, and as a result, they've created this new album from that experience, aptly titled I Felt Better. And I'm delighted to have a chance today to chat to Matt about that album and where the band is at today. So, Matt, welcome. Thank you so much for your time here. Now,
Of
before we
course.
talk about the music, which I'm desperate to do, it's, I think, important to touch on the context of that and where the album's come from briefly. But what I'm really interested to know is, was there a point during your recovery process when you felt like, now I'm ready to try and express what I've been going through in lyrics and melody? Or is that something you've kind of been expressing throughout that whole process?
Um, yeah, there wasn't. I mean, honestly, there wasn't a specific moment where I felt like I was ready to express it. It was more about a specific moment where I was physically able to record it. Because after coming out of hospital and stuff, it took a really long time for me to sort of just be physically able to do anything and just like get off the couch. So by the time kind of like we started recording the album initially, and I didn't have all of the songs. I had most of them, but I didn't have like the title track I Felt Better or the last track of the album, um or Sick of Being Down. So I sort of didn't have those three, and I wrote them after coming out of hospital. But the rest of them I sort of already had, and it was really about when I was able to physically get into studio. That took a while to come around where I could actually start sessions. So we had to delay sessions over and over again, um, and sort of wait till I was physically ready to do that. And obviously, a lot of those songs that was the sort of they were the sort of party songs like My Way, Big Dogs, stuff like that. About to Lose It is obviously about sort of overcoming or you know overcoming this or also being in that sort of the place where I was sort of about to lose it, and everything was kind of a lot, and it felt really good to like be able to put that down on record and get that out there. But it wasn't really about having a time where I was ready to talk about it or sing it. It was just about a time like when can you actually physically record a vocal or be in a studio. That took a while to come around, and when we had to do vocal takes and stuff like that, it just took forever. Usually, I do a vocal in one session. I had to split up all the vocal sessions into like 3 sessions
Right.
because I kind of didn't have the energy to do full sessions.
Yeah, and your vocal style, you seem to ask a lot of yourself. It's high energy stuff when you
Yeah,
do go for it. So well done for waiting. I mean, in particular, the song that really stood out for me from the new ones I heard first time around was "My Way." That song is just an absolute delight. And what I'm interested about that is there's a similarity between that for me and Backfoot in that sort of vocal delivery style in the verses, the kind of funkiness in the delivery there. Is there anything that links those two songs in terms of the kind of confidence level you're feeling, and then that's what dictates the vocal delivery in the verses? Because it seems like there's a bit of similarity also in the lyrical context of like, fuck it, I'm doing my thing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a vibe, I guess it's really important the energy when you're writing a song, the energy um, that you bring in that moment is really, really important to the outcome of the song and the type of song that you're writing. And I think Backfoot is a good example. My Way is again a good example. Like I just had that energy when I wrote that song that I wanted to express, and it is that energy of like, fuck it, I'm doing me, fuck all of that, and fuck not getting paid any money from Spotify or whatever, like all of that stuff. I was like, I want to say this stuff. So when you sort of, it's all about articulating that feeling, isn't it? Um, so yeah, like being just being able to deliver the verses like that and stuff like that. It's just about finding the energy that you want to express in those verses and just making it happen.
It's an interesting line to dance upon because I think you could very easily, have those expressions are like, oh, this is really difficult. It's hard. And it come across as like, oh, just complaining. But there's something about the delivery there. There's a jauntiness
Yeah,
to that, I think, that makes it whimsical and therefore an easier thing for people to understand and relate to, oddly, I think.
for sure. Yeah, I never want to moan about stuff. That's a bummer. I don't want to like get on a track and moan about like stuff. Like I'm okay. My life's okay. Um, but sure, I get pissed off about stuff, and there's stuff I'm frustrated with. So rather than like moaning about it, I think it's cool to have fun with it and like insert humor into it and insert you know a interesting cadence, so you can sort of like express yourself about what's fucking you up, but you're having fun with it and you're delivering it in a way where it's like it's funny and catchy, and you can like hide your message in that thing. Like it's a pop song and people are like getting down to it, but when you actually like listen to it, it's like, oh yeah, he's fucked off about or what. I love doing that. It's fun, and it's a challenge as well. Like sometimes when you want to articulate yourself, um, you really want to say something in a certain way. That's a challenge to be able to articulate it correctly and fit it into a song that's um, kicks ass, has a good vibe, like all of these things that you want it to do. It's a real challenge to do that sometimes. And like Back Foot and My Way, both of those songs, the initial idea is instant. Like you see it, but then actually fitting what you want to say and saying how you want to say it, you know, I work on that quite a lot because I don't want to just put filler shit in. I want to say exactly what I want to say. So sometimes that takes weeks. You get that initial spark, but then you work on it for a while.
I'm fascinated always to know how much of what I see as interesting decisions in songwriting is potentially an agonized decision that's very specific, or whether something just naturally flows out that way. And in particular, in my way, what I'm intrigued by is the transition between the spoken word bit into the singing for the chorus happens only when you sing the words my way. I mean, there's another universe where you could have gone like, fuck them in the spoken word, and they go, I'ma do it, my. Did you decide specifically to keep the spoken word until the word my way? Or is that just how it came out and you're like, that'll be how it is for the whole song?
Interesting question. Yeah, originally My Way, I had the idea for the verse and I loved that flow, but I didn't know originally the chorus of My Way. Um, it hits the chorus and it was like, I'm gonna do it. And it was actually super low and actually quite moody. And it had the chord progression chugging through with this constant like little tiny picked guitar, which kind of reminded me of Eminem or something like that. It's like maybe something Eminem or Dre would put on a record, this tiny little picked thin guitar string. And when it hit the chorus, it used to go into the sing where it's like my way, and it was just chilling on this like low thing, and it was actually a real vibe. I completely forgot about it once I'd written the song as it is now. And I did an interview the other day where I had to run through tracks, and I opened up the demo session of it. I was running through tracks like this is that, blah, blah, blah. And I opened the original chorus, which I'd completely forgotten about. I was like, holy fuck, like it's so different. And I actually really, really dig it. I was like, damn, like should I have actually done that? That's really cool.
Wow.
But the reason why that wasn't it was because I had all this frustration in the verse and I got it all out. And when I got to the chorus, I didn't want to go down. I wanted to go up. Like that's my bit to just like get it out there. So I can remember when I wrote it, I muted that little downplayed chorus, and I had the verses with just big holes where the chorus is for weeks, and I just would like leave it, not think about it. When I'd like come back into studio, I'd play it, see if anything came up. Like I didn't want to write something quickly just to fill it because like, I want to finish this song. That's the wrong thing to do. Like what wants to come out of that space, you know? And I remember eventually like I came in studio one day, I had the big holes where the chorus should be. I was listening to the verse and I was like, fuck it, like I can't I don't have the thing that should happen here. So I was like, what would I do if I just didn't think about this? And I played the end of the verse and I just shouted what came out, which was what's now on the record, just me shouting my way going up. And then that all flowed out. It was a really interesting process how that came together in the end. I guess I wanted a chorus where I'd expressed all that frustration, and everyone, maybe as the viewer, I sometimes think about what it is to be a fan in the audience watching the song as I write it. So I'm writing it, but I also sort of have the perspective of someone watching it live. And I'm like, where does that guy want the song to go? And he wants it to go big so he can sing it too, you know. So that's I sort of wrote that later. It's interesting. I love how songs come together. Like
Yeah.
it's such a bizarre, an interesting process. Like I'm fascinated by it.
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's music is somewhat it's technical, but it's also artistic. There's this sort of other element to it. And the where those meet in the middle is fascinating. But
yeah,
on a technical level, going from a lower note to a higher note gives it that triumphant lifting of like I'm putting my flag in the ground here, and that's
sure,
totally effective. But it also resonates at an emotional level in the same way.
absolutely. I often think that's the actually the most important, or yeah, maybe the more important side of it is the energy that you're curating. Like you're controlling the energy of that song. How do you want people to feel when they hear it or when they hear that bit? Like, yeah, going up or getting louder or getting bigger. Yeah, it's more, but what's the energy? And
Mm.
I think that's so important. Like often I work on songs, like I write songs for a long time. Like the initial idea can come very, very quickly. And I think it's the magic in the seed of the idea is so important to capture it. It can be something so simple as well, but like it's so important to accurately capture the energy that you've imagined in that first seed. But then in the weeks after, it's about curating that energy. So like if you're developing the song and it's getting bigger or more developed or whatever, if there's any ever a point where you're listening through and you're like, you have to be really aware of like where the energy changes. Like you have to be really honest about like, I'm loving this, but then there's a point where you're like, oh, I love this less. But sometimes you might, or some people, whatever, might not be aware of that change in how they feel, but you have to be so aware of that change because the energy has to. Do you know what I mean? Like you're
Yes.
curating that energy that the listener is gonna then experience themselves. That you're like directing their energy.
Yeah.
So I think about the energy part of it like so much, and I often spend a lot of time living with demos, just listening to them, but with a lot of space in between because you never want to get used to a demo. So I sort of like live with them for months or years, actually, sometimes, and and live with it. And if a couple of years later I still feel like as soon as I turn it on and it's a shitty demo, I feel pumped. Punk Kiss is a good example of that. I've had that song for 8 years or something, you know,
Well,
and every time I listen to it, I'd always be like, oh yeah, this is a banger. Like I love this. And that shows you that it's not tired. You're not tired of it. There's not a part of it that you think sucks secretly, even though you're not acknowledging that. Like, you know, um, so I really think being aware of where the energy of a song is so important. And also having the time to be able to do that, you know, often people feel like they have to rush songs now because of social media, like whatever. They have to like continually, oh, we've got to get a song out. Like, great, you might have to get a song out, but because you're rushing it, you're not letting it marinate, you're not cooking it for long enough. It might not be the best thing it could be. Whereas if you let it marinate for like 8 years or like 2 years,
As one could.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah,
It's so interesting because especially if you sit with music or a song for that long and want to develop it, the risk is you can overfill it with layers and overcomplicate it. But what
sure,
you've managed to do in your music is keep the simplicity powerful. And I've noticed especially in this album as well, like half the songs and from previous records, the chorus hook is often like maybe it's two words like punk kiss, or it's a phrase that's looped. And I think of bands like AC/DC with songs like Highway to Hell. It's like
yeah,
it's a sentence that you repeat. And
yeah,
how much of that is a considered thing that you try to cook in your songs? Like, I want something simple that's hooky that everyone can sing along
yeah,
by the second chorus.
for sure. I think about that a lot. That is something that's really important to me. But again, um, I think like how you find that is so important. Big Dogs is a classic example, um, or even well, kind of thrash metal cassette. But like, yeah, you of course you can be writing a song and need that hook and think about it and design it and eventually figure it out. Um, but often it's when it just like the universe gives it to you. Like you see something or you read something. I have like thousands of titles that I've written down when I've just like $1 million hot dog, like whatever, like weird, weird little phrases that have somehow come into my life, whether someone said it or I read it or whatever. And Thrash Metal Cassette was one of those, where the title came from the story, but I liked how the title flowed, Thrash Metal Cassette. That feels good and it sounds good and it paints a picture immediately. And once you've got that, that's often the seed of the idea and it sort of paints a picture in my mind. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's a song. And my brain will start cooking it and then I'll voice memo it and blah, blah, blah. So to answer your question, like, yes, having that phrase is super, super important to me, but it's often like sometimes I have to go searching for it, but often it just happens a lot. I'll let it happen. I'll write it down because I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's going to be a song later because I know that's going to be a hook. Like Big Dogs is the same thing. A friend texted me something that wasn't Big Dogs Eat for Free, but it was really close to it. And I was like, oh yeah, fuck. Like I immediately heard the chorus. I was like, oh yeah, that screamed, well, that's amazing. And then, so I just had from that text years before I had that title in my brain screamed at 1,000%. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to write that later. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes, that makes sense.
yeah, like
Yeah.
super important.
I mean, Big Dogs is on the first listen. I was like, this is quite a dynamic and unusual song. On second listen, it's one of my absolute favorites off that album. That chorus is huge, and I can understand I think what you're saying there because you get into that chorus essentially on a vibe. You're shouting "yeah," and then you
Yeah.
get into the hook line, whatever. But it's just that transition. But
Yeah.
also the dynamic shift from the verse vocal delivery into that is massive. I thought maybe there's someone else in the band that's delivering that. I don't know that I've heard you have that low delivery
Yeah.
before. Is that yourself?
Yeah, that is me. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, like um shit, what I was gonna say about the chorus hook there. Well, I mean, first off, that the talked thing is I find really amusing. Like it is kind of funny, I guess. Like the lyrics, the concept, the story is a bit odd and like in in some ways slightly humorous, I guess. It reminds me of kind of Viagra Boys a little bit. I don't know if you listen to Viagra Boys very much, but
No.
something about it feels like Viagra Boysy. Um, and the chorus is obviously like I don't know, like Pantera or something like something raging. Um, yeah,
It's a perfect payoff to me because you have like someone telling the story, but then you embody the character of the person who's claiming like Big Dogs Eat for Free. And
yeah,
that is, I think that that switch up is just phenomenal, and it is, again, it's the custodian of the energy, just goes to the roof, and you
Right.
can't help but go on that journey.
Yeah. And I just remembered what I was going to say. I remember writing thrash metal cassette, and obviously it has that bit after the verse, and it's not a chorus, is it? But it's thrash metal cassette, you know. And obviously, like, we released that, and it like kicked off, and it felt good. And then we started playing it live, and every time it got to that bit, I would obviously notice the crowd. They'd go, "Oh, this is the bit," and like it's like on a flick of a switch, and everyone goes fucking crazy, and they're singing that thing. And I remember thinking, like, I love that. I mean, I love thrash metal cassette. I really love that song. But that's my sort of favorite bit of it because it feels good. It's again, it's the energy, that release everyone wants and that I want as well. I just wanted to go like and explode. And I remember thinking about that song like on tour and stuff like that. I was like, that's my favorite bit, but it's not the chorus. I wish I could write a song where that's the chorus because you want the chorus to be that bit, you know. And I'd accidentally happened on that bit in thrash, but it's not the chorus. The chorus is great, like, but I wanted that intense bit to be the chorus. So I had that sort of thing in my brain for ages, like, what can that be? Where's that thing? And it was when my friend texted me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's it. That's the thing I've been looking for. I needed that phrase, and when I got that text, and I switched to eat, I made it Big Dogs Eat for Free because that made the concept of people searching for fame all the time, blah blah blah. But it was almost like I was waiting for. I was like, oh, that'll come at some point. The phrase will come at some point, but I know what. I've sort of got a blank canvas, and I know what the picture's going to be, but I just need someone to give me the paint or whatever. However, I could make that analogy. And I waited for it for ages, and then eventually got that Big Dogs Eat Free. I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing for that song that I wanted to do. It's funny, like, yeah, waiting for an idea to come to you, you know.
Yeah, especially if the mindset like it might take 8 years. You're clearly,
Yeah.
you understand the value of patience because so far things have paid off and you've had the moment. And have you had a chance to play Big Dogs live as yet and
What?
experience what that is?
Yeah, once. Because
Okay.
we've only played one show. Our first show was meant to be the start of our UK headline tour, which is the 5th of September. I don't know when this video will come out, but we'll be out in the UK 5th of September. I've been planning that was our first show. Obviously, I've had a long time off music and playing shows with health stuff and everything. So I wanted a big run up to kind of physically get ready for that. But then this amazing venue called the Lead Mill in Sheffield suddenly was closing down, and they reached out and said, "Hey, does Dinosaur want to play the second to last show of this venue ever?" And I wasn't planning for that, but I was like, we've got to do that." So we did it. So we hadn't played in like 2.5 years, and really over the last 6 years, we played about 5 shows.
Wow.
But like between the last show we played in that period and this Lead Mill show, we played. Well, it'd been 2.5 years, so we had 2 rehearsals. Crazy, completely crazy. And I was freaking out. I was so not ready, and I need a lot of like. I'm quite near a like nervous person, particularly about performing and stuff. Sometimes, at least, anyway. And I was freaking out, and we hadn't even learned the new songs yet. We had learned Big Dogs, so we were like, "Fuck it, let's play Big Dogs." And it was wild because we played Big Dogs near the end of the set, and the crowd didn't know we were going to play it. But from about the second song in, people were woofing in the
No
crowd,
way.
just woof, like through the whole fucking thing. It was crazy because, like, thank God we were going to play it. Because can you imagine if we hadn't? So people were like barking in the crowd between songs, and we were like, "Whoa! Like this is going to be crazy." And I'd never sung it before, and obviously, as you know, like the vocal is intensely high, so I'd never sung it like live. Yeah, I'd painstakingly done it in the studio, but never live. And for that song and a few others, actually, we're switching out. So like Jim plays guitar, our bassist plays guitar, and I actually just go on the mic because I've realized that like I get pretty stressed out sometimes having to play guitar and do the intense, super intense vocals, and I want to nail it and I want to concentrate on that. So a few of the songs I'm actually just going to sing.
Cool.
So for the first time ever, I gave Jim the guitar. I went on a mic, which I've never done before. So again, I was freaking out. And we started Big Dogs, and everyone started singing the verse. And it's, you know, the tension in the song is clearly building to like, oh, okay, this is at some point, this is going to fucking go bananas. And it's like, it was palpable in the room. Like everyone's energy was lifting at the same time. It was fucking nuts. And when we hit the chorus, it just exploded. It was wild. It just exploded. And I ended up giving the microphone actually to the crowd because they were so in. I was like, "Fuck it, you can do it." And it was wild. It was absolutely off the chain. So it was cool.
That is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was rad.
Oh, amazing. What a wonderful payoff. And that's the patience is paid off there in a big way.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hopefully experiencing that myself at a show in future. While we close our conversation here, we don't have the most amount of time in the world. Perhaps I wonder, given the band's been going for about 18 years or so now, is there anything you know and understand about the music industry and how to make it sustainable for yourself that you know now that you didn't know at the start, that if there's a new person who's trying to start a band who's listening to this could have some advice from you, what would be something you'd impart to them of, if you want to keep this thing going, focus on this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've just realized as well, by the way, I think we've got a little bit more time, which is great.
Okay.
That's a really good bit of advice. I wish that's a good question. Sorry, I wish like Dinosaur's been going nearly 20 years, which is bonkers. And I started when I was, damn. I mean, I'm 40 now. I've literally just turned 40. So like 20, very, very early 20s, started this band. And I knew nothing really. I didn't know anyone. Like I never had like a hookup. Like, I don't know, my uncle is a fucking music executive or something. I didn't have any connection apart from the local scene in Leeds. I guess that wasn't really connected to like, I don't know, you'd hear like a band's getting signed or whatever, but like I had no idea how that happens or who does that or whatever. So it took me like a long time to figure it out, and I feel like that's part of the reason why Dinosaur's career is kind of so lengthy. Like that's a long career, and it's not like we've ever broken into mainstream fame or acclaim, or we've just sort of done our thing and grinded and toured a lot, and it's been pretty tough, but like we're sort of where we are, and that's amazing. Super grateful for that. But what I would say to me, like young Matt, if I met young Matt now, or anyone that's starting a band, particularly with the industry as it is now, I would say one of the most important things, I think, the industry is kind of a cruel place, and first impressions are really important, and it makes judgments very early and stuff like that. I think two things are really, really important. One, spend a lot of time figuring out exactly what you want to do, writing all of your songs, write a bunch of songs, and be critical of yourself. Don't write 5 or 10 songs and be like, oh, there you go, that's cool. Like, write 100 songs, pick 20, write over and over again until you have a bulletproof group of songs. And don't be afraid of taking time over that. I think there was always, bands start, they get excited, as they should. It should be exciting, it's fun. But they're like, fuck, yeah, cool, do a recording, put it out there. And then the world is like, okay, you've started, what's next? And then you're under pressure, and then people are judging you and blah, blah, blah. What I would tell Matt now, and I did all of this in the public eye, which like now when I look back, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what were you doing? Like, no idea what I was doing. But if I was to meet young me now, I'd say get everything in a line, figure out what your sound is, write some amazing songs that are undeniable, figure out your look, figure out all this stuff. So when you open the door, boom, here it is. It's a thing, it's ready, and people can judge it as you wish it to be judged. Whether they like it or not doesn't matter, that's up to them. But at least they're seeing an accurate representation of what you are. And it probably will be bulletproof. And that's awesome. It's completely fine to like figure it out as you go in the world. But I think it's better to create what you want to create. Don't be scared of taking time over it. Do it in isolation. Don't show it to anyone or to the world, at least. And just do it in this bubble and make something fucking amazing. And it's your art, so you can do that. That's what it's about. It shouldn't. Art isn't about making it with everyone's eyes on it and you being influenced by that. It's about you doing exactly what you want to do, and then putting it out. And then the second thing, that's the main thing. I'm talking a lot, but the second thing is shorter. Think about how you're going to make this work financially. Something like, once you start touring, money's tough and touring is expensive and it's difficult, but you want to play shows. So figure out a way to sort of set yourself up to be able to do that with low costs. So, for instance, plan how you're going to put your music out there live. How many people are going to be doing that? Can you do it in a way where you can use 3 people or 2 people instead of 4 people or 5 people? Because every person that you put on the road quadruples your costs. It's not just like, oh, a bit more of the fee has gone to our 4th member. It's a bit more of your fee. It's a hotel room. It's their food. Do you know what I mean? The list goes on and on. Your publishing is split again and again. Like, every person that you put in the band, unfortunately these days, costs you so much more. And with the amount of money, or how difficult it is to create money from music now, you have to be really aware of that. Where's that going to come from? Because later you're going to hit it. You're going to hit a point where you're like, fuck, like, I don't have enough money to do this. I work a 9-to-5 job. I can't afford this. Life gets pretty real later. So that's something I would tell someone starting now. Like, take your time on planning how you're going to do this, particularly live, and try and figure out a clever way that still represents what you want to represent, still puts out what you want to put out, but in a way that's, you can make a budget work better, a tour budget. Like, understanding a tour budget is another piece of advice that I would probably give myself. Like, study how to do a tour budget, what a tour budget is, and how you make that work. Like, the finances of a band, the cash flow of a band becomes so important, so important later. And definitely as a 20-year-old, I wasn't thinking about that. I was like, let's try and play Leeds and Reading, like, whatever, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about that stuff, and I know it's kind of boring and stuff, but at the same time, it's really exciting. Like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get these 3 people in a van? How are we going to get to that show? How are we going to afford this tour? How are we going to print that merch? Like, that's so exciting to me now. But as a young dude, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about playing the show. And then fast forward 10 years, it's like, wow, this is really difficult to make work financially. And it's that, and then you're touring already, and it's tricky. So that's it. That's what I'd tell you.
Lots of planning. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly poignant for the time that we're in, because everything is so very immediate online. You write a thing, you say, record it, put it out there. People will judge you immediately on that and probably put you in a box, if they don't think it's amazing. But the other side of that coin is, if they think it's great, they're like, oh, you're awesome. Go support this huge band. And then you're like, but we can't play live very well.
Yeah.
And like, you think you can because you've just been in your bedroom the whole time. That's a totally different kettle of fish. You want to have done like 100 gigs to no one and then go like, now we're good.
Like, because the way it works now is so crazy. Like, when you press go, you need songs all the time. You need content all the time. And I hate that is like that. And I hate that I'm talking about content. I really hate that. But that is the way it is now. So prepare yourself for that. Don't get stoked on one song, put it out, because then it's something like, oh shit, like we have to like post a video twice a week or 3 times a week, and I've written one song and I haven't even written the others. That's why I'm like, go write 100 songs. From that, make 20 bulletproof songs. From that, make all of this bullshit content that you now have to do to entertain people. Set yourself up for like 6 months or like a year. And when you're like, yeah, we're fucking ready, let's go. Press the green button and you have all this stuff to just be shooting. Also, maybe that can guide you towards being in a position where you don't have to sign to a label. Every young artist should know the power is in ownership. The power is in your masters. You might be in a tricky situation like every band, like me, and you'll need to use money from a label. That's what it's a bank loan. Essentially, it's a bad bank loan. That's why you do a record deal, because you need money to make the record, to go on tour, for all these things that cost fuckloads of money. That's why you sign a record deal. If you've got a set of bulletproof songs that maybe you've even managed to record cheaply on Logic and made a pretty decent couple of songs or whatever, you might be able to put yourself in a position where you don't immediately need a label and the value of your music goes up. Maybe that means you can support yourself through your career, or maybe it means that you can sign a license deal where you don't lose the ownership of your music. That's the most valuable thing. You've written a song, you own that intellectual property. You might sign that intellectual property away to get 40 grand off a label so you can make a record or go on tour. 40 grand, that's amazing. Congratulations. But 40 grand, it doesn't last like 10 minutes. Your masters, your intellectual property will last forever if you can keep it. Now, I'm saying this from a position of someone that has learnt the hard way. I started this one as a kid. I've always signed record deals. And I appreciate the labels supporting me. I've signed to some amazing labels and I really, really appreciate them. But would it have been better for me to always own my masters? Of course. Of course it would. But I was just unable to do that because I need to fund this project and that's how it rolls. But if a young artist is ever able to keep their masters, get their music out there and have people start to freak out about it all over the world when they still own it, brilliant. That's the goal. And I think these days, probably more these days than there were when I started, there's probably more ways to do that, I would say. There's so many interesting platforms and ways to release your music. You can release your music yourself in DistroKid if you want. That's crazy. I couldn't do that when I started this. Like, that's wild. So that would be my advice too. Like, another reason to really take your time before you get going to create something amazing, create your songs, create your content, blah, 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 because it will put you in a higher position of power later where you don't perhaps as desperately need a bank loan from a record label.
Yeah. I guess because it's all choices, right? And you will have more choices down the line. But a choice
Yeah,
could be, as you've done, work with a label. But a reason the label will give you 40 grand is because on their side, they're like, we'll make more than this
yeah,
from this great
for
content.
sure. And don't get me wrong. Like, again, it depends who you're signing with. Like, signing with a label, it can be a bad situation, but also signing with a label can be a good situation if they're the right label for you. If they're a great label, they're going to be the workhorse doing all the promotion, all the spending for touring, marketing. Are you going to have 20, 50, 100 grand to spend on marketing? Probably not. Who has that? A label has that. They'll spend that, which is amazing. Um, Obviously, if you can be self-releasing, you own your masters. I don't know, your song goes viral, like, suddenly you'll be able to pay for that. That's killer. But if that doesn't happen or before that happens, yeah, you might need a label. And like I said, like, I've worked with a bunch of amazing labels, and they've done a really great job. And sometimes that is the right fit. I just I just think you should just try and have as much value, keep your value for as long as you can, because I think if you do that, your value goes up. And as an artist as well, you have to remember that you are the one that has the value. You're creating the thing that can then create all the money for everyone else, whatever. You're thinking of that. So just be aware of that. Like, it doesn't mean you have to turn into some egotistical prick because you wrote a song or whatever, but like, remember that you're making something special. I think when I started, I'm a relatively shy dude sometimes, and I know who I am now as a 40-year-old man, but as a 20-year-old kid, I didn't, and I would take advice from people, and I wouldn't maybe set my opinion and set my boundaries and blah blah blah, and maybe I didn't know the value of what I was creating. And I think you got to be aware of that shit. Like, you're thinking of the ideas here; those ideas are worth something to someone. That's why they're going to maybe try and sign you. So just be aware of that.
Yeah.
I hope that
lots
makes
of food for
sense.
thought there. No, it's great. Pearls of wisdom. Very, very cool. Yeah, clearly it's, for whatever path you've navigated, you have managed to maintain and create engaging and exciting songs along the career. And this album's no exception. It's got some absolute heat on it, which I love. I wonder, perhaps then, to close, are you plugged into the newer up and coming bands? Are there any in particular that you're seeing, you're like, they've got something special?
Yeah. Yes. I would think an artist called Sugar Pit is super exciting. I don't know if you've heard of Sugar Pit. Yeah. Sugar Pit's killer, really cool. Pop, kind of reminds me of like early LCD sound system. If you sort of like, I don't know, gave it a bunch of steroids and let it go. Like, yeah, Sugar Pit's great. Karen Dio is great. I'm very biased there. I have
understand.
I have to admit I'm married to Karen Dio, but she is absolutely fierce and her music's fucking fire. So I'd also say Karen Dio, Sugar Pit. I had someone, really cool band from the UK called Unpeople that I've recently. Oh, what the fuck? No way! That's wild.
Yeah. They're fucking great.
They're great, man. That's so cool. I've been out at some festivals recently with Kay, and Unpeople have been on a whole bunch of them. So we've ended up sort of saying hey, and it turns out they're really big fans of Dinosaur. So they came and introduced themselves. So I listened to their stuff, and I just think it's killer. So great.
Yeah.
The Garden.
That is a full considered package. Like they were ready.
There you go. Perfect example.
Yeah.
That's a full considered thing, and artistically it's like there. Obviously the musicianship is killer. Like, they're obviously great performers and players. But that's a thing. Like, they've cooked that in the background for as long as they needed to cook it. And then like, oh, okay, it's ready. Here you go. And it's like great,
Yeah.
Great example.
Great shout.
Yeah. Cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your time, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Steve,
I'm looking forward to people hearing your album that comes out pretty soon here in August. It's been a joy.
22nd. Holy shit.
Counting down the hours, like when?
For sure. Thanks so much for having me, man. Appreciate it.
No, pleasure. Thanks. What a joy. That was an absolute treat. Lovely chap in Matt. Thank you again to him for the extra time he was able to spend there in that conversation, and the pearls of wisdom he was offering for people trying to find their way within this industry right now too. I'll make sure to put some links as usual in the description to Dinosaur Pile-Up's social media platforms so you can keep up to date with what they're doing as they do it in future. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast if you want more interviews with great rock musicians just like this one. Much appreciated. And hopefully I'll see you in another one of these interviews very soon.